Good morning, everybody.
Hey, Charles.
Hey,
Uh,
Paul. Good morning. How are you doing? You're okay?
I'm good.
Welcome. So, Liberation Day. Here we come. Oh, what a to do. I think stocks tell you everything we need to know, really. It's selling off sharply around the world. Just even people within Trump's US administration, within the tighter circles, aren't exactly sure what Trump's going to do on the 2nd of April. So, high degree of uncertainty, and that is what's gripping the markets today. Um, Remember that April the 1st, tomorrow, April Fool's Day, is the trade policy reviews are due from various US federal agencies. So you can have a whole swathe of federal agency reviews. And then on the 2nd of April, we're going to have the tariffs. And exactly what it's going to be isn't known. You've got the auto tariffs of 25%, which are due, agricultural tariffs potentially due, the end of temporary relief for Canada and for Mexico, and you've potentially got these reciprocal tariffs on US trade partners. So really weighing on sentiment heavily. You can see VIX just spiking higher, and it's almost like the market is suddenly realizing, oh, hang on, this is really happening, and it's happening tomorrow, and we don't know exactly what's going on. One thing to know is the safe haven reaction. Gold making fresh all-time highs on these geopolitical concerns. But what's also interesting is what isn't reacting, and that's the dollar. You can see the dollar, which is typically bid as a safe haven, isn't being. And that's because the worries are that these tariffs are going to be dragging on US growth. They're also going to be inflationary. So it's a stagflationary environment. And weirdly, we're not seeing a preference for the US dollar as a safe haven, which is a potentially
update from China. According to Xinhua, China's Vice Premier He Lifeng says China welcomes international investors to actively participate in the building of China's capital market and share development opportunities.
Which is potentially a worrying development. It just means that the level of uncertainty is very high, and the preference for the US dollar in safe haven situation is not there. You can see gold is really benefiting from those lack of safe haven bids into the dollar. And, all bets are really off for tomorrow. Technically, looking at the S&P 500, you can see we've fallen into this very strong support level. Whether that will break today or tomorrow looks highly likely. So my bias is for selling, potentially for selling on any retracements higher when we get a clear opportunity to the downside. We might see a little bit of sort of fun and games around the open down at this level. But if we move back up to that pivot point on the daily chart, that looks a great opportunity for potential sellers for today. It's something that I'm going to be looking at. The calendar is quite light. There's just that preoccupation with worry. So looking at the scheduled data points, we've got hardly anything coming out. We've got Trump speaking with executive orders at 6 o'clock UK time tonight. But apart from that, it's very light on the Fed Manufacturing Business Index. Chicago PMIs are already out. British Summit, so no, are due to be out at 2:45. But very, very sort of weak sentiment out there today with a predisposition to sell. So that's my bias coming into the session, is looking for selling opportunities, but needing to be a clear, straightforward opportunity. VIX pushing higher, crucially above those 23 level. That's that critical level. With the VIX moving above that level, then further downside looks very, very likely. So just that's what we're keeping my eye on as we come into the start of the session. S&P 500 down that key support area. Apart from that, it's not a whole lot going on. Looking at the broad big picture, we can see that the market continues to track lower. We've managed to push above this value area low from Friday. So price trying to base above this value area high. We are in value. Price currently making its way lower, hitting the daily VWAP and then selling off into the US Open. We've had British summertime hours now have changed. So we've got the normal 2:30 UK US Open. We've broken up through these sellers here, but it's just been sellers all the way. If you look on the hourly chart, you can just see that it's been a predisposition to sell. We're 18,000 contracts short since the open. So it's just a very, very strong sell bias that's been in there since the market, and that's really what's been driving things and moving things on. Now, what I'm looking for here is further downside as we come into the open, particularly if we can break down through this value area here that we're just sort of touching. I think you can see the buyers coming in before the open here at the 5564. That will be an important area, and if we get down through these lows, it'll be an important area. On the hourly chart, the developing value area is at the 5570, so a rejection of that area lower is going to be important. On the 15-minute chart, again, a rejection of this 565 area is going to be important, with these buyers getting trapped here. So that's an area I like.
There we go.
So if you look at the 5565, you can see that that is a great area to get some trapped buyers in through the open. So if we get buyers trapped there, then that opens the way for a retest of these lows, second standard deviation. Just want to show you again, contracts to the downside. We've got a strong sell bias, and that's a strong sell off the daily VWAP. We sort of hit it, sold off it, and Delta's trying to build with those buyers potentially getting trapped in that value area, and the next set of buyers all the way up here at the 5580. So sell bias is on, and just looking for clear areas to define, limit risk, be keeping a careful eye on these 5-minute buyers at the 5564, and of course how price reacts around this standard deviation. So it's looking for opportunities to sell today, and just making sure that the risk is defined and limited as we come into the open. Yeah, I think that's it. That's the major things to be looking for as we get going. Paul, anything you're seeing today? What's grabbing your attention?
The biggest thing is I'm just wondering how much all this uncertainty, how long it's going to last. And I think it's interesting because we've had a couple members reach out and say, hey, I'm taking a break for like a month, that sort of thing because of the volatility.
Yeah.
Just factoring that in, it's a tougher time to need to have, I think, a little bit wider stops, lower risk, and be able to kind of run with the market a bit more. It's not as much of a tight market in the sense where you can put, real small stops in little areas and hope to go for bigger gains. It's not as much that type of market. Although Mark is still crushing it with his 2 points.
Yeah.
But I think it's just something to keep in mind. Reduce the risk, use a little bit larger stops, and see what you can get out of the market.
Yeah. I sort of run two things, trying to pass the accounts. I'm not worried about the volatility.
Yep.
But with my live accounts, I'm widening stops to keep the risk amount the same. So that's my sort of strategy that I'm using for my live accounts.
Yep. And then I think the other thing is the trades can really run. It's just more than, particularly over the next few days, if Trump makes some crazy sort of headline announcement, or the market decides it wants to really panic. These are ones to hold maybe just a little bit longer than you would normally. So
yeah, I think I can begin to sense a little bit of panic as well, because I think there's a few analysts I'm reading are suggesting not that this is like the end of the US economy, but is this a potential turning point where the US economy starts to drag down behind China slowly? So is it a kind of catch up from China? And I think that fear is the sort of thing that gets people selling quickly and heavily. And the moving gold really tells me that there's a lot of fear around. People are thinking, where do I put our money? If I don't put it in the dollar, I'm not putting it in US equities, and I'm not putting it in US treasuries, and I'm not putting European equities, gold. And I know a lot of that is central bank buying, particularly from China. So a lot of this is China trying to set up their own alternative safe haven to the USD. And I guess gold has been the long running safe haven for millennia, essentially.
Right.
I think, so.
It's always nice to have a central bank support you on the bid,
Yeah. Yes, that's very. And, the big stagflationary concerns, that gold is a typical beneficiary of stagflation.
Yeah.
So, and then the sort of 60-40 equity bond portfolio is a little bit out of vogue. So gold's another beneficiary of that. There's all these sort of factors coming together for gold. All right, this is interesting. Selling coming in quite strongly. 15-minute buyers here. If we see them trapped there ahead of the open, that will be interesting for potential move lower. Let's just see what we get. Right, I'm going to sell one position just into this. I think it's very likely that we're going to get a flush lower at the open. So I want to be in, and if it starts pushing up, I can always exit. I want to see if these 15-minute buyers get trapped. That would be very interesting. I'm just looking, these sellers coming in volume before the open, got those buyers coming in earlier to see them sort of start to capitulate. I'd expect that. So again, not on my live accounts, but on the accounts I'm trying to pass, I don't mind trying to just push this through here. You can see Delta building now. All right, got these buyers potentially getting trapped here. 1 minute to the open. Let's see how long we got. Right, I've got 15 seconds. I want to be opening underneath this area. There we go. Let's have a look. Right, and I've opened underneath, so that's fine. Expect to sell. Right, take another sell from here. That's a nice place for a sell. Not unreasonable just to see this drop low. That's quite a good price, I think. You got those sellers trapping those buyers into this area, pushing up. That spike sold quite quickly. Those sellers trap those buyers at the open. It's not unreasonable to expect that just to capitulate lower. Got a battle going on. First standard deviation, holding for now, but we will see. Delta building, point of control. Now let's see, do we get a break of this? That would be ideal.
And in about 10 minutes time, subscribers will start to see the data of Chicago PMI. 3 minutes thereafter will be released to the public. In March is expected unchanged at 44.5.
Delta building negatively. We got some buyers getting trapped there. That's decent. Nice move. Got these lows down at this 5.2. See what we can get here. Getting quite a lot of volume coming in. Let's see if we get a clear break of this. Right, we're going to go for a break. If I get a break, I'm going to hold, otherwise I'm going to close the position off. That's nice.
Out of the BCB, Director David says, despite the exchange rate having appreciated, inflation expectations have only
closing
increased.
One position.
Says the Real did not have a very different dynamic from our peer currencies.
Didn't get the close that I wanted there. Right, and I've got one position right up at that little top there, so I think I'm gonna hold that and see what how far I can run with it. Basically, that's 500 off the bat, which is nice. So I've got first standard deviation test, bit of positive delta. Delta coming in now positive. Right, let's see. Do we get any of these buyers trapped here on the one? All right, we're making our way lower again. I'm gonna have a crack at this. Got 20 seconds. I want to see those buyers trapped. That would be good. All right, 5 seconds. Point of control move down there. Lovely. I'll enter another position if I can get underneath these buyers, or else I'm going to give it a rest and then just take what I've got on that. That's nice. 15 seconds. Getting some buyers trapped, possibly. Oh, right, I'm closing that out. Just that point of control now moving up, and those buyers weren't trapped. So let's see, give it another chance. Nice one. Thank you, Najam. We're at S1.
More from BCB's David says, we believe long-term unanchoring of inflation expectations is due to the expectations of possible fiscal surprises.
I got it. My chart just froze. Let me just refresh that. My chart's just frozen, Najam. It's fine. It's our S1 on my other chart. There we go. Right. I see no reason why not to keep selling this. Let's just see. I'll join in again if I get a close here. I'm just selling that. That's just wants to go. Those sellers trapping all the buyers, carrying on its way. So break out of those lows. It's on volume. It makes sense to sell.
Update from foreign ministers of G5 Plus says, we are willing to exert more pressure on Russia, including new sanctions. Back to Brazil's David says, an alternative could be to exchange expensive debt for cheaper debt or new debt. They do not have a convincing conclusion.
Right, I'm looking to sell if I get back up to that 5555 region. So rundown for today, got a new 50,000 account, trying to pass that for the session. Started off very well, selling nicely with those buyers getting trapped. Sellers trapping buyers as price pulled up into that daily VWAP, sold 2 positions and just took that down, one down to the standard deviation and one down to the second standard deviation. Then tried 2 shorts as we pulled up into this area and tried a 3rd short, and in the end price trapping those sellers. It's clearly going the wrong way, closed out, and that sort of hit my drawdown limit because I was sort of quite close to passing the account, hit the drawdown limit, and that was that for the AT1. Then with the live account, had a few trades, 2 break even, 1 loser. So I have my break even trades just as we're pulling up into these areas here, just trying to short as we saw the buyers getting trapped, sellers against the point of control, tried to move it lower down to that level, and then saw on the 15-minute chart trap these buyers. Now there's more delta here on the minis, but on the main standard contracts you can see that the delta was very weak, and in hindsight selling from a great area, but the delta was very weak and to the downside aggressively, and the delta was moving higher, so not the best trade opportunity. Then the third opportunity, I was hovering on the T, looking as these buyers took out these sellers looking to buy against the point of control, and just pulled the orders as went down to make a cup of tea. Price hit the point of control and then bounced off and would have hit the ultimate target. So Murphy's Law on that one. And tomorrow we've got not Liberation Day, we've got Trade Policy Review Day.
1 minute time, we are expecting a quarterly grain stock data for March.
April Fool's Day, when federal agencies have to submit their trade policy assessments and tariff recommendations to President Trump. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any new tariffs that come out of that recommendation. So a little bit of a curveball we could see tomorrow. Apart from that, that is all for now. And have a very good evening, guys, and look forward to seeing you later. Paul, take care.
Everybody, take care, guys.
Yep.
Bye.